I sensed something was wrong in my house, so I pretended I was traveling to visit my sister. As I watched from a distance, an elderly neighbor touched my shoulder and murmured, "Wait until midnight, you will see everything." When the clock hit midnight, I forgot to breathe at what I saw. I was 64 years old, a grandmother, and I found myself hiding in my neighbor's house, peering through their window like a criminal, spying on my own home. What I uncovered that night didn't just shatter my trust. It ripped open my heart, revealing the horrifying truth of how far the people you love can fall when greed takes hold. My name is Eleanor. This isn't just a house to me. It's my sanctuary, my history, 40 years of my life built brick by brick with my late husband. Every worn floorboard, every sun-drenched window, it all holds our memories. The kitchen, where we make Sunday morning pancakes. The living room, where we watched our son, Robert, grow from a toddler to a man. Even the garden, each rose bush planted with our own hands. When my husband passed away 7 years ago, Robert, my only son, insisted on moving in with his wife, Audrey. "So you won't be alone, Mom," he'd said. I remember feeling so touched. I truly believed it was out of love, filial devotion. Oh, how utterly, painfully naive I was. For the first few months, it was peaceful. Almost happy. We'd share dinners, chat, even laugh. Audrey was attentive, kind, even affectionate. She'd help me with groceries, cook my favorite pot roast or mashed potatoes. Robert would fix all the little things that broke around the house. I remember thinking, what a blessing. My family, right here in my golden years. But then, about 4 months ago, something shifted. It was like an invisible switch had been flipped. Their smiles became mechanical, our conversations forced, and then, the whispers started. At first, I dismissed it. "Eleanor, you're just getting old," I'd tell myself. "Your imagination's playing tricks." But the whispers were undeniably real. Every time I walked into a room, they'd abruptly fall silent. Robert would shove his phone away with this quick, almost guilty movement. Audrey would change the subject, that sweet voice now sounding hollow, fake. "What were you two talking about?" I'd ask. "Nothing important," Audrey would chirp, her smile too wide. "Work stuff, Mom," Robert would mumble, always avoiding my gaze. Then came the little things. The door to my old master bedroom, the one I'd used for storage since my husband passed, was suddenly locked. Always. It used to be open. "Why do you keep that room locked?" I asked one day. Audrey answered too fast, a telltale sign. "Oh, it's just a moisture problem, Mom. We don't want your things to get damaged." But I didn't remember authorizing them to touch that room, let alone lock it. I certainly didn't remember any moisture problem. And at night, when I'd walk down the hall, I'd hear strange noises from inside. Footsteps. Muffled voices. Laughter. And it definitely wasn't Robert or Audrey. One night, close to 11 p.m., I heard it. The unmistakable creak of the front door. My heart pounded. I slipped out of bed, moving as quietly as a ghost, creeping to the hallway. From my bedroom, I could see the entrance perfectly. Audrey was there, receiving a young woman, with a small suitcase. They whispered. Then, the woman passed something over. Cash, I was almost certain. Audrey, quick as a flash, tucked it into her pocket. And then, she guided the stranger down the hall. Straight to that room. The one with the moisture problem. I heard the key turn. The door opened, a yellow sliver of light escaped, and then it closed, sealing the secret inside. The next morning, at breakfast, I said nothing. I just watched. Audrey poured coffee, that perfect smile plastered on her face, a smile that no longer fooled me. Robert scrolled through his phone, distant. "Sleep well?" I asked, my voice feigning casualness. "Very well, Mom," Robert mumbled, not even looking up. "Like babies," Audrey chirped. Liars, both of them. But I needed proof. I needed to know exactly what was happening under my own roof before I could even think of confronting them. Later that afternoon, With Audrey at the store and Robert at work, I went to that locked door. My house, my keys. I had a master set. But when I tried to turn the lock, it wouldn't budge. They'd changed it. Changed the lock on a room in my house, without a word. My heart slammed against my ribs. A white-hot rage flared within me. Who did they think they were? This was my property, my home. Every single inch legally belonged to me. But I knew rage wouldn't solve anything. It would only cloud my judgment. So, I took a deep breath, pushing the anger down. I needed a plan. I had to uncover their secret without them ever suspecting I was onto them. And then, an idea clicked. A risky one. I'd fake a trip. Tell them I was off to visit my sister in, say, Boston for a week. I'd leave them alone, giving them free rein. And I'd watch. I'd watch from afar, see what they really did when they thought I was gone. That's when I went to Moses, my lifelong neighbor. He lives right across the street, his front window a perfect vantage point to my house. I confided my suspicions, and what he told me next, it chilled me to the bone. "Eleanor, I've noticed strange things too," Moses murmured, his voice low, as he poured me iced tea in his kitchen. Moses is 72, a widower like me. We've been neighbors since my husband and I first built this home. He knows my life better than anyone. "For weeks, I've wanted to tell you," he continued, his hand trembling slightly. "But I didn't want to worry you without being certain." Fear settled in my stomach like a cold, hard stone. "What have you seen, Moses?" He sighed deeply. "People. Coming and going from your house. At odd hours. Always at night. Always with suitcases or backpacks. Young women sometimes. Couples. Never the same people. Taxis. Private cars. Audrey meets them at the door, they speak briefly, then they go inside. By morning they're gone. Quick. Discreet. Like they're hiding something." His words confirmed my darkest fears. I wasn't crazy. My imagination wasn't failing. Something truly sinister was happening in my own home. Strangers. Money. Secrets. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, a mix of relief and anguish washing over me. "Because I hoped I was wrong," he said. "I wanted to believe there was a logical explanation. Robert's friends, maybe. Audrey's family needing a temporary place. But last week, when I saw Audrey taking cash, I knew it was a business. And a secret business is never an honest one." He leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. "Eleanor, they're using your house. For something. Something they don't want you to know." I told him my plan: fake the trip, make them believe I was gone for a week, and then watch. Moses didn't hesitate. "You can stay in my guest room," he offered. "From the upstairs window, you'll see your entrance, even parts of your living room. We'll see everything." A wave of immense relief washed over me. I wasn't alone. I had an ally, a witness. Someone who would see what I saw, so they couldn't dismiss me as confused or senile. That very night, I returned home and began my performance. At dinner, I casually dropped the bombshell. "Tomorrow, I'm traveling to visit my sister for a week. Haven't seen her in ages, she's been nagging me." Their reaction was instant. Robert's eyes, wide and bright, shot up from his plate. Audrey froze mid-chew, then her smile blossomed, too wide, too eager. "Oh, that's wonderful! A change of scenery will do you good, right, Robert?" My son nodded so vigorously, I thought his head might pop off. "Yes, Mom. You deserve a break. We'll take care of everything. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing." The words echoed in my head with a sinister clang. Their barely concealed relief, their desperate eagerness for me to leave, it screamed betrayal. I continued the charade. "I'll need you to water the plants every other day, and please keep the house tidy. You know how I dislike clutter." Audrey's nod was almost a bobble. "Of course. Everything will be perfect when you return. Enjoy your trip." Perfect. They wanted me gone. They needed me gone. That alone was all the confirmation I needed. The next morning, the show continued. I dragged out my old suitcase, the one my husband and I used for our travels, and packed it, making sure they saw every item. I even made a loud, fake call to my sister from the living room. "Yes, sis, I'm heading out now. Be there before lunch." My sister, bless her heart, knew everything and was fully supportive. Robert insisted on driving me to the bus station. "That's not necessary, son, I can take a cab." But he wouldn't take no for an answer. He wanted to be absolutely sure I was gone. At the terminal, he walked me to the platform, gave me a quick hug. "Have a good trip, Mom. Call us when you arrive." I looked into his eyes, those eyes I'd known since he was a baby. I searched for a flicker of guilt, a hint of remorse. But all I saw was impatience. He just wanted me on that bus. He wanted me gone. "I'll call you, son," I said, and walked into the terminal. But I didn't get on any bus. I waited 20 agonizing minutes, enough time for Robert to disappear. Then, I snuck out another door, hailed a cab, and gave the driver Moses' address. When I arrived at Moses's, everything was ready. He showed me to the guest room upstairs. From that window, my house was perfectly visible, the front entrance, the yard, even a sliver of my living room through the curtains. "No," Moses said, his voice quiet. "We just wait. And watch." I sat by that window, a tight knot of dread in my stomach. My own home. The place where I'd found happiness for decades. It now felt like enemy territory. A place I had to spy on, from a distance, just to understand what the people I had loved and protected were truly doing. The first few hours were deceptively normal. Audrey went to the grocery store, Robert left for work. The house stood silent. But as evening crept in, around 6 p.m., I saw something that stole my breath. A silver car pulled up. A young couple, maybe in their 30s, emerged, loaded with suitcases and backpacks. Audrey opened the door before they even knocked. She was expecting them. Smiles exchanged. Then, the man pulled out a wallet, handing Audrey a wad of cash. She counted it quickly, then ushered them inside. My world tilted. I'd just witnessed my daughter-in-law taking money from strangers, welcoming them into my home, as if it were a cheap hotel. Moses, standing beside me, his face grim, saw it too. "Did you see that?" I whispered, my voice trembling, needing confirmation that my eyes weren't betraying me. "I saw it, Eleanor. I saw everything," he replied, his voice heavy. "These aren't just suspicions anymore. It's real. They're renting out rooms in your house, right under your nose." Renting rooms? In my house. The house I built with my late husband, with years of sweat and sacrifice. The house where I raised my son. Full of sacred memories. They were turning it into a clandestine business. By the way, if you're still with me, make sure to hit subscribe, more unbelievable stories are coming. A wave of liquid fire, pure rage, surged through my veins. I wanted to storm across the street, kick down the door, scream at them in front of those strangers. But Moses's hand was firm on my shoulder. "Wait, Eleanor. If you go now, they'll know everything. If we wait, if we watch a little longer, we'll uncover the full truth, the sheer scale of what they're doing." He was right. I took a ragged breath, trying to calm the hurricane in my chest. I sank back into the chair, hands clenched in my lap. Over the next hour, lights flickered on in different rooms, the living room, the kitchen. And then, a light appeared in that room. My old master bedroom. The one with the supposed moisture problem. The one they kept locked. Now I understood. No moisture. Just guests. Strangers. Sleeping in the very space where my husband and I had shared 35 years of marriage. Unknown people using the bed where he died in my arms. Walking on the floor where I had wept for months after his death. Tears streamed down my face, unbidden. Not tears of sadness, but of raw fury. Betrayal. A pain so profound I felt like I would shatter. "How could they?" I whispered. "How could my own son do this to me?" Moses said nothing, simply sat beside me in silence, a silent witness to my heartbreak. Outside, the night deepened, and my house, my home, transformed before my eyes into something utterly unrecognizable. Around 9 p.m., Robert arrived home from work. He parked his car, walked in with his briefcase, just like any normal day. As if he wasn't complicit in this monumental betrayal against his own mother. 20 minutes later, another couple arrived, younger this time, maybe in their mid-20s. Audrey's routine was flawless: cash, smiles, doors opening. They walked in, suitcases in hand, like it was any roadside motel. I counted. 2 couples now. 4 strangers. Occupying my spaces. Breathing my air. Touching my things. "How long do you think they've been doing this?" I asked Moses. He considered. 3, maybe 4 months, Eleanor. It started slow. 1 person a week, then 2. Now, it's almost every night. 4 months. All this time, while I was living under the same roof, they were running this secret operation. Every time I went to bed early, every time I left for errands, every time I visited a friend, they seized the opportunity. More people. More money. With my property. I did the math in my head. If each couple paid $50 a night, and they had 2 or 3 couples, that was $100 to $150 a day. Over $3,000 a month. In 4 months? Over $12,000. $12,000, earned illegally, using my house, my electricity, my water, my gas. Without paying me a single cent. Without even the decency to ask. They were stealing from me. My own son and daughter-in-law. Stealing from me in the most vile, calculated way imaginable. The night wore on. Around 11, the lights in my house began to wink out, one by one. First the living room, then the kitchen. The bedroom stayed lit a bit longer, then they, too, went dark. Silence fell. I stayed glued to that window, unable to move, unable to truly grasp the enormity of what I'd uncovered. Moses brought me a blanket, a warm cup of tea. "You should rest, Eleanor. Tomorrow, there'll be more to see." But I couldn't. I couldn't close my eyes knowing strangers were sleeping in my home. I watched all night. My vigil was rewarded. At 6 a.m., the front door opened. The first young couple emerged, suitcases in hand. A taxi waited. They slipped away, quick and discreet, like ghosts fading with the dawn. Half an hour later, the second couple followed. By 7 a.m., all the guests were gone. Audrey stepped out. With a trash bag, tossed it, and went back inside. Everything returned to normal, as if my house hadn't been violated all night. Robert left at 8, ready for work. Gray suit, briefcase, that straight posture I taught him since he was a child. He looked like a respectable, hard-working man. But I knew the truth. Behind that facade of a responsible son was a man capable of betraying his own mother for money. A man who could look me in the eye at breakfast, after filling my house with strangers all night. Later, I watched Audrey. Changing sheets. Cleaning rooms. Preparing for the next wave. She worked with chilling efficiency, with practiced movements. This wasn't new. This was a well-oiled machine. She was the brains of the operation. Robert might have agreed, collaborated, but Audrey was the architect. I saw it in every calculated detail, every organized motion. When evening fell on the second day, more guests arrived. 3 people this time, 2 men, 1 woman, friends traveling together. Audrey greeted them with the same practiced smiles, cash exchanged, doors opened. I continued my silent vigil from Moses's window, mentally documenting every transaction, every betrayal. Moses had suggested photos, but I needed to understand the whole scheme first. Was there something worse? Something I hadn't yet uncovered? And then, Moses told me something that changed everything. It was late, close to 10 p.m. on the second night, when he approached me, his expression grave. "Eleanor, there's something else you need to know. Something I've been hesitant to mention." My heart hammered. "What is it, Moses?" He sat opposite me, his old eyes filled with worry. 2 weeks ago, I saw Audrey meet a man at the coffee shop. Not Robert. Older. Well-dressed, with a briefcase, a lawyer or doctor's type. They talked for almost an hour. I was at the next table, and some words reached my ears. I leaned forward, every muscle tense. What words, Moses? He swallowed hard before continuing. Documents. Mental competency. Medical evaluations. And nursing homes. The world stopped. Those words hit me like blocks of ice. Asterisk mental competency. Medical evaluations. Nursing homes. Asterisk no. They couldn't be planning that. Are you sure about what you heard? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Moses nodded slowly. Wait until Friday midnight, Eleanor. I've noticed Fridays are different. More movement. More people. More activity. Wait until Friday midnight. You'll discover everything. Moses's words echoed in my head like funeral bells. Mental competency. Medical evaluations. Nursing homes. This couldn't be a coincidence. Not after what I'd already discovered about their clandestine business. This was bigger. Darker. More calculated than I could have ever imagined. They weren't just stealing from me. They were preparing me for something far, far worse. Something that threatened not just my house, but my freedom, my dignity, my entire life. I spent the next 3 days in a state of constant, gnawing alert. Each morning, I watched a parade of guests leave my house. Each night, new ones arrived. The flow was relentless, almost industrial. Audrey managed it all with military precision. I once glimpsed her notebook, schedules, names, payments, columns of numbers. This wasn't some fly-by-night operation. It was a well-oiled, meticulously planned business, months in the making. Robert, though less visible, was a full accomplice. He changed the sheets Audrey couldn't manage, bought supplies, soaps, toilet paper, towels. He even kept the lawn perfectly manicured for their guests. And every night, when they thought no one was watching, I saw them counting cash at the dining room table, illuminated by the very lamp my husband had installed 20 years ago. Their hands passing over 20s, 50s, hundreds. Making piles. Stuffing envelopes. Smiling those greedy, sickening smiles. On Thursday night, I decided to take a risk. I needed more. I needed to understand Audrey's mysterious conversation. So I called Ellen, my lifelong friend, my lawyer. We met 30 years ago in a sewing class. She was brilliant, went to law school in her 40s, specialized in family and property law. If anyone could help me navigate this legal nightmare, it was her. Eleanor, what you're telling me is extremely serious, Ellen said, her voice sharp with professional concern. Operating a lodging business without permits, without taxes, without your consent as the owner? That's multiple felonies, fraud, misuse of property, tax evasion. But what worries me more, she continued, is what you heard about mental competency and nursing homes. Does your son have any power of attorney over you? Any document giving him authority? I racked my brain. No, never. All my documents are in my safe deposit box. Ellen sighed with relief. Good. Very good. But listen closely, the process is complex. It requires real medical and psychological evaluations, court appearances. They can't just declare you incompetent. However, if they have a corrupt doctor willing to falsify evaluations, an unscrupulous lawyer exploiting loopholes, they could try it. And if they succeed, Eleanor, they could commit you to a nursing home against your will and legally take your house. Terror seized me, cold and suffocating. What can I do, Ellen? She thought for a moment. First, solid evidence, photos, videos, testimonies. Second, protect your documents. Make sure they can't access anything. Third, once we have enough, we file a formal complaint. I'll handle the legal process. But Eleanor, you must be very careful. If they suspect you know, they could accelerate their plans. They could try something drastic. My blood ran cold. Drastic, like what? Ellen paused. Like drugging you to make you appear confused to a doctor. Fabricating situations where you seem unstable. creating false evidence that you can't care for yourself. I've seen these cases, Eleanor. They're more common than people think. I hung up, my hands trembling. Now I understood the true danger. They weren't just stealing my money. They were preparing me for a fate worse than death itself, losing my autonomy, my home, my identity. Declared incompetent, locked away, while my son and daughter-in-law took everything. All under the guise of legality, with documents signed by doctors and lawyers, with a judge who would never know the truth. Friday arrived. The day Moses had marked as special. From early morning, the atmosphere was different. Audrey was buzzing. Cleaning, changing sheets in all the rooms, fresh flowers and vases. It was like she was preparing for a grand event. Robert came home early. By 6 p.m., he was helping Audrey with final preparations. And then, at 7, the parade began. Not one or two couples, but groups. The first were 4 young people, vacationers with cameras. Audrey, all impeccable smiles, showed them around, took their money. 30 minutes later, another group, 3 middle-aged women with huge suitcases. Then an older couple. Then 2 businessmen. I counted, 11 people inside my house. 11 strangers, occupying every available corner. My living room had become a common area. I watched as guests mingled, chatted, some even cooking in my kitchen. Audrey and Robert played the perfect hotelier hosts, smiling, offering extra towels, recommending tourist spots. My house had become a fully functional hostel. And I, the legal owner, was hidden, watching from my neighbor's house, a refugee in my own neighborhood. "I've never seen so many," Moses whispered beside me. "This is different. A special night." He was right. Fridays were their busiest. Tourists arriving for the weekend. And Audrey and Robert were cashing in. I quickly calculated, at $30 a person, they were pulling in over $300 that night alone. Almost $1,000 for a full weekend. Every single week. The hours dragged. I watched them eat, talk. Some went out, returned. By 10 p.m., lights started to dim. Guests retired. Audrey and Robert cleaned up, then went to bed. The house fell silent. But Moses had told me to wait until midnight. That at midnight I would discover everything. So I waited. Every nerve in my body was stretched taut, my heart hammering so loud I could hear it. Moses's wall clock ticked, a constant, hypnotic rhythm. 11:30, 11:40, 11:50, each minute felt like an eternity. Moses had finally drifted to sleep on the couch, exhausted from our vigil. But I was wide awake, my eyes glued to my house. Waiting. Waiting for that something Moses had seen before. That something that would reveal the absolute truth. And then, as the clock struck midnight, my breath hitched. The side door of my house, the one leading to the backyard, the one we never used, slowly opened. A figure emerged. Audrey. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, a man I didn't recognize. Tall, around 50, dressed in dark clothing, carrying a briefcase. The same kind of briefcase Moses had described. My heart raced. What was this? Why was Audrey meeting a stranger at midnight? Why were they sneaking out like thieves? They walked to the back of the yard, towards the old shed, my husband's workshop. Audrey produced the key, unlocked the padlock. They both slipped inside. A light flickered on. Through the shed's dusty window, I saw shadows moving. Talking. Gesturing. Audrey pulled papers from her purse. The man examined them with a small flashlight. Then he took a thick folder from his own briefcase. Audrey took those papers, scanned them page by page, nodding. An agreement. It lasted almost 20 minutes. Finally, he put everything back. Audrey extinguished the light. They came out, but instead of returning to the house, they walked to the back fence. A small door there, leading to the alley. Audrey opened it. The man disappeared into the darkness. Audrey resecured the padlock and returned to the house. Less than half an hour. Silent. Secret. invisible to anyone not specifically watching. I shook Moses awake, urgently. I saw him. I saw everything. Audrey met a man at midnight in the shed. Moses shot upright, half asleep but instantly alert. The man with the briefcase? He asked. Yes. It has to be him. Papers. Documents. They're planning something, Moses. Something huge. My neighbor rubbed his eyes, glanced at his watch. It's late, or early, depending on how you look at it. midnight. But now we know. There's someone else involved. Someone working in the dark. This is far worse than we thought. I couldn't sleep a wink. I stayed at the window, watching my house like it was an enemy fortress. Saturday dawned. The guests started to trickle out. Audrey, ever the perfect hostess, even made breakfast for those who remained, all smiles and kindness. No one would have guessed she'd been in a clandestine midnight meeting just hours before. Robert left around 9 a.m. My chance. I needed to get into that shed. I needed to find out what they were planning. I told Moses. He tried to stop me. It's too risky, Eleanor. What if Audrey sees you? But I was resolute. I have the key to the back fence. I can slip in through the alley. Audrey's busy with guests at the front. She won't see me. Moses finally conceded, but insisted on coming to the alley to keep watch. We left Moses's house through the back, creeping through the silent alley. It was Saturday morning, the neighborhood quiet. Most people were still asleep. We reached the back door of my property. My hand trembled as I took out the key. The padlock clicked softly. I slipped into my own backyard like an intruder, my heart hammering. The shed was 20 yards away. I crouched low, hiding behind the bushes I'd planted years ago, every step feeling too loud, every breath too heavy. Finally, I reached the shed. It had a simple padlock, the same one my husband had used. I fumbled for the right key. 3 tries, then the click. The padlock sprang open. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. Sunlight filtered through the small, grimy window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The scent of old wood and damp earth. Rusty tools hung on the walls. Boxes stacked in corners. Everything looked normal. Untouched. But then I saw it. On my husband's old workbench, a sleek, modern, gray metal box. Not ours. I'd never seen it before. It was closed, but not locked. Just a simple latch. I pressed the buttons. Click, the box opened. And what I saw inside stole my breath. Stacks of cash. 20s, 50s, hundreds. At least $10,000, maybe more. All the money from their illegal business. But that wasn't the worst part. Beneath the money were documents. I pulled them out carefully. The first was a rental agreement. A contract listing my house for temporary and tourist lodging. The owner, Robert Vega. My son. But that was impossible. I was the legal owner. My name was on the deeds. How could he sign this? I kept reading. A small footnote. Legal owner in process of transfer. Documentation pending judicial procedure. The floor dropped out from under me. Asterisk transfer. Judicial procedure. Asterisk, they weren't just using my house illegally. They were trying to steal it from me, legally. The next document confirmed my worst fears. A psychological evaluation form. Official medical letterhead. And thereunder, patient name, was my full name, Eleanor Cristina Vega de Herrera. The evaluation date was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Reason for consultation. It read, evaluation of mental competency and autonomy for decision-making. Family request due to concern about progressive cognitive decline. Progressive cognitive decline. They were painting me as a senile old woman, someone incapable of caring for herself, someone who needed to be protected from her own decisions. It was all a lie. I was perfectly fine. My mind was sharp. My health good for a 64-year-old. But they were going to fabricate a different story. With this doctor. With this false evaluation. With this judicial process, they were already preparing. There were more documents. A quote from a private nursing home. Golden Hope Residences. Specialized care for older adults. $3,000 a month. Yellow highlighter marked the section. Private rooms with 24-hour security. Special programs for patients with dementia and cognitive decline. They were looking for a prison for me. An expensive, legal prison where they would lock me up while they enjoyed my house and my money. The last document was the most chilling. A broad power of attorney. A legal document that would give Robert total control over all my properties, bank accounts, and medical decisions. Prepared. Printed. Ready to be signed. Only my signature was missing. And next to it, a handwritten note, in Audrey's precise script. Dr. Lisandro confirms he can administer a mild sedative during the appointment. Signature will be obtained during a state of induced confusion. Witnesses already coordinated. Additional cost, $5,000. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the papers. They were going to drug me. Take me to a corrupt doctor, give me something to confuse me, make me sign that power of attorney without knowing what I was doing. With paid witnesses who would claim I was fully compos mentis. Everything perfectly legal on paper, everything utterly false in reality. And once they had that power of attorney, they could do anything they wanted. Sell my house. Empty my accounts. Lock me in that nursing home. And I would have no way to defend myself, because legally, I would no longer exist. Then I heard voices. Outside. I froze. Audrey, talking to someone, probably a guest. Too close. My heart leaped into my throat. I fumbled for my phone, snapping pictures of every single document. Every page, every note, every chilling detail. My hands shook so badly some photos blurred, but I got the evidence. I shoved everything back into the box, closed it, relocked the shed. Then I ran. Crouching low, I darted back to the alley door. Moses was there, his face etched with anguish. I thought they'd found you. You were in there almost 20 minutes. I couldn't speak. I just thrust my phone at him, showing him the photos. He scrolled through them, image after image, his face growing paler and paler. My God, Eleanor, he breathed. This is a complete criminal scheme. They're not just stealing from you. They're systematically destroying you. I nodded, tears finally flowing unstoppable. I need to call Ellen. Now. I can't wait another second. Back in Moses's house, with trembling hands, I dialed Ellen's number. It was early Saturday, but she answered on the third ring. Eleanor? What happened? I told her everything. The photos, the documents, the entire monstrous plan. Ellen was silent for a long moment. Then, her voice, professional and controlled, but laced with a simmering fury, broke through. Eleanor, this is planned kidnapping. Document fraud. Conspiracy to commit multiple serious crimes. With this evidence, we can stop them, but we have to move fast. That appointment is in 2 weeks, which means they're going to accelerate everything. What do I do? I asked, desperate. Ellen took a deep breath. First, you don't go back to that house. Stay safe with Moses. Second, tomorrow, Sunday, you come to my office. We'll bring in a trusted notary. We'll draw up documents to protect your assets immediately. Third, on Monday, we file a formal complaint with all your evidence. And fourth. She paused. Fourth, Eleanor, we're going to set a trap for them. A trap? I repeated, the words sounding foreign. My mind was still reeling from the false documents, the drugging plan, the nursing home. It was all too much. Yes, Eleanor. A trap, Ellen confirmed, her voice firm. They think you know nothing. They think you're still blissfully traveling, a naive old woman. That's our advantage. You have evidence they don't know you possess. We're going to use it strategically. We don't just want to stop them. We want them to pay for every single part of their criminal scheme. Sunday morning, Moses drove me to Ellen's office. She was waiting with a notary named Henry, serious, but kind. "Mrs. Vega," he said, shaking my hand. "I'm so sorry. But we're going to protect your assets completely. By the time we're done, your son won't be able to touch a single cent without facing criminal charges." For the next 3 hours, I signed document after document. Ellen patiently explained each one. "This is a revocable power of attorney, canceling any Robert might claim. This is a declaration of full mental competency, certified by a forensic psychologist who'll see you tomorrow. This new will replaces all previous versions, explicitly excluding Robert as an heir due to fraudulent actions. And this is a preventative protection order that we will file with the judge on Monday." With every signature, I felt a surge of power. I wasn't a confused victim anymore, spying from a window. I was a woman taking definitive legal action against those who tried to destroy me. "And the trap?" I asked, when we finished. Ellen smiled. Not a cheerful smile, but the cold, calculating smile of a chess master making her final move. "The trap requires your acting, Eleanor. You need to go home." My heart leaped. "Now?" Ellen shook her head. "Not today. Tomorrow night you'll return. As if nothing happened. As if you've truly been away all week. You'll arrive tired, happy to be home, without the slightest hint of what you've discovered. For the next few days, you'll act completely normal. Meanwhile, we'll be working behind the scenes." Henry leaned in. "We'll contact municipal authorities. A housing inspector will make a surprise visit. If they find an illegal lodging operation, they can shut it down, issue severe fines. But there's more," Ellen continued. "I've been investigating Dr. Lisandro. He has a questionable history, already investigated twice for unethical practices. With your complaint and photos, we can launch a formal investigation. If they find he was willing to drug patients for fraudulent signatures, he'll lose his license and face criminal charges." The full magnitude of their plan began to form in my mind. This wasn't just about Robert and Audrey. It was about dismantling their entire network, the corrupt doctor, the false witnesses, the illegal business. "How long will all this take?" I asked. Ellen looked at Henry. "The inspector could go this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. The doctor's investigation will take longer, but your formal complaint starts it immediately. And as for Robert and Audrey..." She paused for dramatic effect. "The final confrontation will be when they least expect it. When they believe everything is going exactly according to their plan." I spent the rest of Sunday at Moses's, mentally rehearsing. I had to be utterly convincing. No anger, no suspicion, no fear. I had to be the trusting mother, happily returning. The naive mother-in-law who knew nothing. The irony wasn't lost on me, they'd been acting for months. Now it was my turn. Monday night, suitcase in hand, my heart a frantic drum, I walked toward my house. Moses had dropped me at the corner, so it would look like a taxi. I rang the doorbell. Hurried footsteps. The door opened. Robert, his face surprised. "Mom! We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." I managed a warm smile, the kind a mother reserves for her son, even as my heart shattered inside. "I decided to come back a day early. I missed my home." Audrey appeared, her smile perfect, too perfect. "Welcome back. How was the trip?" I stepped into my house, feeling like I was entering enemy territory. Everything was normal. Clean. Tidy. No trace of the 11 guests who'd been here 2 nights ago. Audrey had done an impeccable job covering her tracks. "The trip was wonderful," I lied with astonishing ease. "My sister spoiled me. But you know, there's no place like home." They took my suitcase, made me tea, sat with me in the living room, asking for invented details of my trip. I spun stories I'd prepared, restaurants, walks, conversations. Robert and Audrey listened, nodding, smiling. But in their eyes I saw it, pure relief. Relief that I'd returned unsuspecting. Relief that their secret remained safe. "The house looks lovely," I commented, glancing around. "You took perfect care of it." Audrey was quick. "Of course. We cleaned everything, watered the garden, just as you asked. I took a sip of tea. It even smells different. Like a new cleaner. A micro flash of panic flickered in Audrey's eyes. Oh, yes. We did a deep clean. We wanted everything perfect for your return. Liar. She'd cleaned to. Erased the dozens of strangers who'd violated my home. That night, I was back in my own bed, but I didn't truly sleep. I lay awake, listening. Around 11, muffled voices from Robert and Audrey's room. Urgent whispers. I slipped out of bed, barefoot, creeping to their door. It was ajar, just a crack. I pressed my ear against it. Do you think she suspects anything? Robert's voice, tight with tension. No, she suspects nothing, Audrey replied confidently. She's the same as always. Gullible. Trusting. The plan is still on. And Dr. Lisandro? Robert asked. Everything's coordinated, Audrey confirmed. The appointment is next Friday. We'll put the sedative in her breakfast. Tell her it's a routine checkup. By the time she realizes what she signed, it'll be too late. The power of attorney will be registered. We'll have complete control. A beat of silence. Then, Robert's voice, barely recognizable as my son's. And after that? Audrey's reply was cold, chilling. After that, we commit her. We already have the place. Golden Hope Residence accepts patients with cognitive decline. We'll visit her once a month to keep up appearances. And in the meantime, this house will be completely ours. Completely ours. Those words pierced me like daggers. I returned to my room, silent tears streaming down my face. But they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of pure rage. Of steel determination. They had just sealed their fate. I'd heard the entire confession. And even without a recording, I knew every single detail of their plan. Including the exact date. Next Friday. I had less than a week to execute the perfect counter-trap. Tuesday morning, I resumed my performance. Coffee. Breakfast. Trivial chatter. We were all actors in a macabre play, each with a different script. But I held the advantage. I knew they were acting. They had no idea I was too. As soon as Robert left for work and Audrey went to the grocery store, I called Ellen. I relayed every chilling word I'd overheard. Perfect, she said, her voice filled with grim satisfaction. Friday is the appointment. That gives us time. The municipal inspector will visit your house on Thursday. Better before they try to drug you. Do you think they'll have guests? I asked. Probably Thursday and Friday nights. Those are their busiest. Ellen paused. Then we'll coordinate the inspector's visit for Thursday night, when the house is full of living evidence. For the next 2 days, my performance was flawless. The sweet, trusting grandmother. I offered Audrey help, baked Robert's favorite cookies. They seemed relaxed, convinced their plan was airtight. Wednesday night, Audrey even showed me a brochure. Mom, I found this health center offering free preventative checkups for seniors. How about I take you on Friday? Free? I thought. Liar. They were paying $5,000 for this checkup. I feigned genuine interest. A checkup? Well, that wouldn't be bad. I haven't been to the doctor in a while. I'll go with you. I nodded sweetly, my blood boiling. She thought she was closing the trap. She had no idea I'd already closed a far larger one around her. Thursday afternoon, as Audrey and Robert prepared for the night's guests, my phone vibrated. A message from Ellen. Inspector confirmed for 9 p.m. Police on standby nearby. Stay in your room when he arrives. We'll handle everything. My heart hammered. Tonight. Tonight their world would begin to crumble. As expected, guests started arriving around 7. A young couple, 3 women, a lone businessman. By 8:30, 7 strangers were openly occupying my home. Audrey played the expert hostess, Robert helped with bags, smiling professionally. I was in my room. Reading. But really, I was watching the clock. Every minute stretched. 8:40, 8:50. 5 minutes to 9. And then. I heard it. The doorbell. Firm. Authoritative. Not a guest. This was someone with power. Hurried footsteps. Robert's voice tense, asking, "Who is it?" Then, a strong male voice from outside. "Municipal inspector." "Open the door, please." A heavy, suffocating silence. The slow creak of the door. "Inspector, is there a problem?" Robert tried to sound calm, but failed miserably. "We received an anonymous complaint about an illegal lodging operation at this address. I need to inspect the property." "There must be a mistake." Audrey's voice, higher pitched than usual. "This is a private residence. We don't operate any business." The inspector's tone was professional, unyielding. "Then you won't mind if I verify. I have an inspection order signed by a municipal judge. If you don't let me involuntarily, I'll return with the police and a search warrant." Another silence. Then, Robert's defeated voice. "Of course, Inspector. Come in." I cracked my door open. Just a sliver. I saw him, a man in his 40s, municipal shirt, clipboard. Behind him, a younger assistant with a camera. They began their walk-through. The inspector's questions were direct. "How many people reside here permanently?" Robert's voice trembled. "3. My mother, my wife, and me." The inspector surveyed the living room. 7 confused guests, sitting, standing. "And these people are?" Audrey tried to improvise. They're friends. Visiting." The inspector walked to one of the guests, a man in his 30s. "Are you a friend of the family?" The man, honest or perhaps just rattled, replied, "No, sir. I reserved a room online. Paid $35 a night." Robert's face strained of color. Audrey started. "He's confused, Inspector. I don't know what he's—" But the inspector was already walking towards the bedrooms. He opened the door to what had been my master bedroom. Inside, 3 women, suitcases open, clothes on the bed, toiletries in my private bathroom. "And these ladies are friends too?" Audrey's silence was her answer. The inspector pulled out a measuring device, began documenting, photographing each occupied room. "Room 1, occupied by 2 non-residents. Room 2, occupied by 3 non-residents. Room 3, occupied by 1 non-resident. Shared bathrooms showing multiple use. Kitchen with utensils for more than 3 people. Extra towels piled in the hallway." Every sentence was another nail in the coffin of their illegal business. Robert made one last, desperate attempt. "Inspector, this is a misunderstanding. We just occasionally help acquaintances who need lodging." The inspector cut him off. "Do you charge money for that lodging?" Robert hesitated. "Well, sometimes we receive a voluntary contribution for expenses." The inspector shook his head. "That's called a business. A lodging business. And to operate one, you need a commercial license, a tourist permit, fire safety certificates, sanitation certificates, and you must pay taxes. Do you have any of those documents?" The silence was absolute. Audrey and Robert looked utterly defeated. They had nothing. "According to municipal code," the inspector continued, "operating a commercial lodging business without permits is a serious violation. The fine is $10,000. Furthermore, the tax authorities will be notified about undeclared income. And since this property is registered in the name of—" He consulted his papers. "Eleanor Cristina Vega de Herrera, who has not authorized any commercial activity, this could also constitute fraudulent use of someone else's property." I knew this was my moment. I opened my bedroom door and stepped out. All eyes snapped to me. The confused guests, the professional inspector, and Robert and Audrey, their faces etched with pure terror. "Good evening," I said, my voice calm, steady. "I am Eleanor Vega, the owner of this property." The inspector nodded respectfully. "Mrs. Vega, did you authorize the operation of a lodging business on your property?" I paused, looking directly into the eyes of my son and daughter-in-law. "No, Inspector. I authorized nothing. In fact, I only just discovered this situation a few days ago." Audrey took a step towards me. Mom, I can explain. I simply raised my hand, silencing her. I don't want explanations, Audrey. Not now. I turned to the inspector. What happens next? He closed his clipboard. The current guests must vacate the property immediately. They have 30 minutes. Your son and daughter-in-law will receive official fine notification and must appear before the municipal judge next week. I've also notified the police. 2 officers are outside in case assistance is needed for the eviction. The next 30 minutes were chaos. Guests scrambling, grabbing their things. Some even demanded refunds from Audrey, who, holding the cash in her purse, had to return it under the inspector's watchful eye. Robert sat paralyzed, unable to speak, watching his illegal empire crumble. When the last guest was gone, the inspector handed me a copy of the report. Mrs. Vega, I recommend you consult with a lawyer. You have the right to sue for damages. I already have one, Inspector, I replied. Thank you for your work tonight. When he and his assistant left, the house fell into a deathly silence. The 3 of us stood in the living room. I was by the window. Robert slumped on the sofa, his head in his hands. Audrey stood near the door, arms crossed, like a cornered animal. It was her who finally spoke, her voice no longer sweet, no longer calculating. It was desperate. Mom, I know this looks bad, but we had our reasons. The house expenses are high. We have debts. I turned slowly. Reasons? Debts? And that was sufficient justification to turn my home into an illegal business without my consent? Audrey took another step. We were going to tell you eventually. We just wanted to save up some money first, before what? I cut her off, my voice sharp. Before drugging me and making me sign a fraudulent power of attorney? The silence that followed was deafening. Audrey turned ashen. Robert's head snapped up, his eyes wide with shock. How? Robert stammered, his voice breaking. How do I know? I finished his question for him. Because I was never traveling, Robert. I was right here. Watching. Uncovering every detail of your vile, calculated plan. I walked to the center of the living room, my gaze pinning them. They both recoiled. I know about the illegal lodging business. I know about the cash hidden in the shed. I know about Dr. Lisandro. I know about the Friday appointment where you planned to sedate me. I know about the power of attorney you wanted me to sign. And I know about the Golden Hope Residence nursing home where you planned to lock me up. Audrey shook her head frantically. No, it's not what you think. We talked to the doctor just for precaution, because we were worried about your health. Stop the lies! I roared, my voice echoing through my own house. I found the documents, Audrey. I saw them with my own eyes. I read the notes in your handwriting, * mild sedative during the appointment. Signature will be obtained during a state of induced confusion. * those were your exact words. Audrey's face went utterly blank. Her lips trembled, but no sound escaped. I turned to my son. And you, Robert? You whom I raised, whom I loved, to whom your father and I gave everything? How could you? Tears streamed down Robert's face. Mom, the economic situation was desperate. We had $30,000 in debt. The bank was going to foreclose on our apartment. Audrey said if we could just get money fast. And your solution was to betray me? I interrupted. Your solution was to steal my house, my freedom, my dignity. It wasn't stealing. Audrey shrieked, her voice high-pitched. This house is enormous. You live here alone. We were just using the available space. And the power of attorney? That was to protect you. You're aging. You need someone to make decisions for you. I am 64 years old, I said, my voice icy. Not 80, not 90. 64. My mind is perfectly clear. My health is good. I don't need anyone to make decisions for me. What you were planning was not protection. It was legal kidnapping. Robert stumbled to his feet. Mom, please. We can fix this. We'll give all the money back. We'll leave the house if you want, But please don't report us. If you go to the police, we could go to jail. I looked into his eyes that once held a child's pure love. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. And what did you want me to do, Robert? Let you drug me? Let you lock me in a nursing home while you enjoyed my property? Feign dementia to make your life easier? It wasn't going to go that far. Robert mumbled. Audrey was just exploring options, but I never would have. I heard your conversation last night. I interrupted again. I heard you planning exactly that. I heard you saying you'd visit me once a month to keep up appearances. I heard you turn me into a formality. An obstacle to be managed. Robert collapsed back onto the sofa, sobbing uncontrollably. Audrey remained petrified, her mask of the perfect daughter-in-law utterly shattered. I took a deep, steadying breath. Tomorrow is Friday. You plan to take me to Dr. Lisandro at 10 a.m. Obviously, that's not happening. What is happening is this: you are going to pack your things, and you are going to leave my house. You have until tomorrow at noon. Audrey's reaction was immediate. Evict us? Where are we supposed to go? You should have thought about that before you betrayed me, I replied, devoid of emotion. You have family. You have friends. Figure it out. Mom, please, Robert pleaded, getting up. We can't leave like this. We don't have money for a deposit. We have nothing. You have $10,000 in the box in the shed, I countered, pointing. The money you earned illegally with my property. You can use it for your deposit. Though you'll probably need it more for the municipal fine and lawyer's fees. Audrey turned to me, her eyes blazing, no longer pleading, but full of venom. You know what? Fine. We'll leave your precious house. But don't think this ends here. We'll get a lawyer. We'll fight the fine, and we'll sue for wrongful eviction. I smiled, a humorless, chilling smile. Go ahead, Audrey. Get a lawyer. But be warned, my lawyer is very good. And she has photographic evidence of every fraudulent document, every criminal plan, every detail of your illegal operation. She has photos of the hidden cash, the false contracts, the notes about drugging me. Do you really want to go to court with that? Audrey's defiance crumbled. She finally understood. She was completely defeated. I had played the game better. While they planned to destroy me, I was 2 steps ahead. And there's something else you need to know, I continued. My lawyer has already filed documents revoking any power of attorney in your name. She filed a declaration of full mental competency, certified by a forensic psychologist. And she filed a new will, where Robert is specifically excluded as an heir due to his fraudulent actions. Robert's head shot up. You disinherited me? His voice was a raw mixture of shock and pain. What did you expect? I replied, my voice tired. That I would reward you for trying to destroy me? The rest of the night was tense, silent. Robert and Audrey retreated to their room. I sat in the living room, exhausted but utterly relieved. Around midnight I heard the telltale sounds of suitcases being dragged. They were packing. The reality had finally, brutally, sunk in. The next morning, Friday, I woke early. I made coffee, just for myself, and sat by the window, watching the sunrise over the garden my husband and I had cultivated. At 9 a.m., Robert and Audrey came down, for large suitcases in tow. They didn't look at me. Loaded everything into their car in silence. Robert came back one last time. He left the house keys on the entrance table. For a moment, I thought he might say something. An apology, a final plea. But he only looked at me with empty eyes, then left. I heard his car engine start. The tires squealing on the pavement as they drove away. And then, silence. My house was empty. I was alone. I stayed there in the living room for a long time after they left. The house felt different. Bigger. Quieter. But also, more mine than ever before. I walked through every room, slowly, deliberately. Reclaiming every space that had been violated by strangers. I threw open the windows, letting fresh air sweep through. I stripped every single sheet from every bed the guests had used. I told myself I'd wash them, but honestly, I considered burning them. Some memories just don't deserve to be preserved. Around noon, Moses knocked. He had a pot of hot turkey chili. "Thought you might not be up for cooking today," he said, with that gentle kindness only true friends possess. We sat in my kitchen eating. I recounted everything: the inspector, the confrontation, Robert and Audrey's expulsion. Moses listened, silently nodding. When I finished, he placed his wrinkled hand over mine. "You did the right thing, Eleanor. The painful thing. But the right thing." "Then why does it feel so awful?" I asked, my voice broken. "Because it was your son," Moses replied, with the quiet wisdom of his 72 years. "Because a mother's love doesn't just switch off when betrayal happens. It hurts precisely because you loved. If you didn't love, it wouldn't hurt." He was right. That night I cried. I cried for the son I thought I had, the one who perhaps never truly existed. I cried for the family I thought I'd built. I cried for the betrayal, for the greed that had poisoned my own blood. But I also cried out of relief. Because I had survived. Because I had won. Because I was still the owner of my life, my mind, and my home. The following Monday, Ellen called with news. "Eleanor, the complaint against Dr. Lisandro has been accepted. The medical board has launched a formal investigation. I also contacted the district attorney with all the evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. They're considering criminal charges against Audrey and Robert." Criminal charges. Jail. A knot tightened in my stomach. "It's possible," Ellen continued. "Planned fraud, conspiracy to deprive an elder of their freedom, falsification of documents. These are serious charges. But Eleanor, you have the final say. If you don't want to proceed with the criminal case, we can limit it to the civil one." I thought for a long, painful time. Part of me yearned for them to pay for every single thing they tried to do. But another part, the mother in me, couldn't bear the thought of my son in jail. "Ellen, proceed with everything related to Dr. Lisandro. That man deserves to lose his license. But with Robert and Audrey, give me time to think." Ellen understood. "You have a month before the window for criminal charges closes. Think carefully." 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. From Robert. The envelope was crumpled, as if it had been clutched, written, rewritten 100 times. With trembling hands I opened it. The handwriting was my son's, but the words were those of a broken man. "Mom," it began, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. I have no excuses. Greed blinded me. Audrey convinced me it was the only solution. But I was weak. I allowed it to happen. I participated. And now, I live every day with the burden of knowing I betrayed the person who loved me most." He continued, telling me they'd broken up, that he couldn't stay with someone capable of such vile planning. He was living alone in a small apartment, working construction, slowly paying off debts, having lost his job when the scandal became public. "I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness," he wrote. "I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. That if I could go back, I would change everything. The memory of what I did haunts me every night." It ended simply. "I loved you. I love you. And I regret having lost you. Your son, who no longer deserves to be called that, Robert." I cried as I read those words. Part of me wanted to rip the letter to shreds. But another part, that maternal part Moses had spoken of, felt his pain. It didn't justify his actions, nothing ever could, but it was real pain. Real repentance. Or at least, I wanted to believe it was. I put the letter in a drawer. I wasn't ready to answer. Maybe I never would be. But I couldn't throw it away either. A month later, the decision about criminal charges still weighed on me. I sat with Ellen in her office. "If I proceed, what exactly would happen?" I asked. She was honest. Probably 2 to 5 years in jail for both of them. Audrey more time, as the primary architect. Robert, maybe less if he cooperates. They'd have permanent criminal records, difficulty finding work. Their lives would be marked forever. I took a deep breath. And if I don't proceed? Ellen leaned forward. The municipal fine still stands. They'll pay it. Dr. Lisandro will lose his license regardless of your decision about Robert and Audrey. And civilly, they're already legally prevented from coming near you or your property. I closed my eyes. I thought about my husband, what he would have wanted. I thought about the boy Robert once was, before greed corrupted him. I thought about the kind of person I wanted to be at the end of my life. I will not file criminal charges, I said finally. Ellen nodded without judgment. Are you sure? No, I admitted. But it's what I can live with. They will have to live with what they did. That is enough of a prison. Ellen smiled faintly. You're more generous than they deserve, Eleanor. 6 months have passed since that night the inspector knocked on my door. The house is truly mine again now. I hired a professional cleaning company that wiped away every trace of their guests. I painted the walls new colors, donated the tainted furniture, bought new pieces that felt like mine. My old master bedroom? I've transformed it into an art studio. I always wanted to paint, and now I have the time and the peace to do it. Moses is still my neighbor and my dearest friend. We eat dinner together twice a week. He helped me install a security system, not because I'm afraid, but because I value my privacy more than ever. Ellen became more than just my lawyer. She's my confidant, my legal protector, my friend. I even updated my will, making sure to acknowledge her for everything she did. And Robert? I haven't heard from him directly since that letter. But through mutual acquaintances, I know he's still working construction, slowly paying off his debts, living alone. There are days I think about answering his letter. Days I think about calling him. But then I remember the metal box in the shed, the documents about drugging me, the conversations about locking me in that nursing home, and the wound, it bleeds again. Maybe someday I can forgive. Not forget. I will never be able to forget. But maybe forgive. My therapist says forgiveness isn't for the person who hurt you, it's for yourself. To free yourself from the weight of hatred. I am working on that. Slowly. Painfully. But working. One afternoon, painting in my new studio, Moses came to visit. He stood, quietly studying my work in progress, a vibrant garden of flowers, bursting with every color imaginable, except cold tones. It's beautiful, he commented softly. Thank you, I replied. It's my way of healing. Each brushstroke is a piece of my life that I reclaim. He smiled. You know what? You survived something that would have destroyed many people. You are stronger than you think, Eleanor. That night, as I prepared for sleep in my quiet, safe house, I thought about everything. The fake trip, the night spying from Moses's window, the shed and its dark secrets, the midnight moment my breath stopped as the full truth came crashing down. The confrontation. The victory. The pain. The loneliness that came after. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 64-year-old woman with more wrinkles than before, with sadder, but also wiser eyes. I saw a survivor. I saw someone who had been betrayed by the one she loved most, and yet was still standing. I realized that night that love can be the perfect disguise for a trap. I whispered to my reflection. But I also learned that self-love is the strongest shield against any betrayal. I turned off the light and lay down in my bed, in my house, under my roof. Alone, yes. Hurt, of course. But free. Owner of my own destiny. And that, after everything I had lived through, was enough. It's a strange kind of peace, isn't it? Knowing you've survived something like that. Tell me, have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your entire perspective? What would you have done in my place? I truly want to know what you think in the comments below.